Hi guys, this is Stones. Welcome to another weekly review. This week there was so many opportunities, but I was just trying to get a good setup and get to my one or good trade for the week, which is a good behavior. I'm happy about it. For the rest, this is all learnings. I observe, I note, and I try to remember and refine my executions and my trades and see what works and what doesn't. So on the higher time frame, still the same idea that this is a sweeper. We're only going to see a little retrace before continuation. I'm trying to have the higher time frame and my bias not influence my trades too much. And really focusing on those little moves within the session. If I just look at Bitcoin, we had the low, which for me was the W formation, probably a level 1, a level 2, and by Monday we had potentially that level 3. We really only had 2 moves on that level 3 and expecting potential a third one, taking the Monday highs before reversing and maybe even tapping into that zone. I had no trades on Monday. I was working, so only could trade UK. Nothing was good enough here on both assets. The only risk that I had on trading here that level 3 is that, first of all, I used to not take level 3 because sometimes they don't present and you only get a level 2. And there was still potential for the creation of that M on the 1 hour time frame, even though we retested the high of previous week. So this was my trade on Tuesday in UK. Beautiful trade, A plus setup. We retest the high of previous week. We've got 3 levels down, W formation, first level. Usually the retrace retests the middle peak of the W and often the 50 EMA. But in this case, we had this breaker, clean breaker that resulted in that big move in volume and displacement. So once we broke through and retested it and went back above the high of Asia, this was my entry there. Almost no drawdown. Stop loss was below the breaker, not just below this market structure. It was a bit too sketchy to have it there. And as well, we reclaimed the daily open. So basically, this is your wick on your daily candle, and then you start and create the rest of the candle on the daily. The one area that got me cautious is that inverse fair value gap here, which is liquidity resting. So that's why I had my stop loss at break even here. So if we had a clean rejection, at least I would not stay in that trade. So I had my stop loss at break even here when we hit that level. And the thing is, I really was thinking about closing this trade because at that point it was still a 1.7 R. This is the talk about this week is there's too many times where I give back profits around 1 or 1.5 R, and I'm wondering if it's difficult when you have an idea where you trade my go higher. So for example, here Tech Monday has high, which on Tuesday is a very common thing. And you've got a 3R trade to cut it at 1 and then to see it going to 3. It's very difficult. But at the same time, what if I'm stacking those 1R and 1R and 1R more often? I need 2-3 winning trades and I hit my target of 2-3R per week. And this week I could have done it and I did not. And it was the same thing last week as well. And it's a bit frustrating to end up the week at a loss when you clearly had profit, your entries were good. The other trades I've taken, same, like almost no drawdown from the start. If I go down to the 5 minute, the thing is I didn't have a clean rejection here. It was just that massive candle, which I'm not a huge fan of. I'd rather price slowly climb to my target, like a healthy movement. For me, this is sort of a inducement, like tricking people into going long, and that's exactly where we reversed. But yeah, no candle formation showed me rejection, and it was just a slow retrace. This became my demand, this candle, and it was at the same time the bottom of that demand was my break-even point. So it made sense. Like if price would break lower, there was a low probability we would go all the way to my target. This trade ended up being a break-even. When we retested here is when Ethereum actually retested that breaker. It was still within this one, and it retested that demand before this move up. But because we were still below Asia highs, I wasn't keen on re-entering, especially after this break-even that felt a little bit like revenge trading. I didn't want to open a trade here with a stop loss here, but this is what ended up happening in the extension. Ethereum actually ended up creating its own 1 hour M as well. Wednesday UK then, this one hurts because I know that Bitcoin takes the liquidity most of the time, and I still took Bitcoin because it made more sense to me. So the story is in UK, I don't get any clean entry here on the 5 minute or the 2 minute. The trade is gone already. Like this M was here. It's not even like if it was a clean entry to enter before in the extension or in the gap. I only get on my laptop anyway about here. When we start recovering this week and closing below Monday's low, so prices below the Asia range, then I decide, okay, I can play the higher time frame on this one. I enter right here with my stop at those highs, playing this setup now. I have my M. I sort of had a drop, but price is just hovering under the 50 EMA, and it's as well under the high of previous week. So great entry to continuation lower. I enter this trade here, no drawdown at all on the entry, and I go to bed with this trade open. I know it was before FOMC, but my idea that this setup was just too good of this M retest of high of previous week and down. The only thing is, yeah, like 70 or 80% of the time, Bitcoin's gonna make the liquidity grab, and ETH will not. And I should have known, I should have entered on ETH, because for the same stop loss here, I would have been safe. And Bitcoin ended up taking me out. Even if my stop was here, I would have been taken out. And even if my stop was all the way here, I would have been taken out. Having my stop all the way up here, it's just way too big for the move I want to catch. Then there's a couple trades I missed. This short here in Asia on Thursday. I'm off work on this Thursday of the week. And then here there was a little long, a bit sketchy, but it was a little long that ended up playing out perfectly as well. Exactly the same on Ethereum. I was actually tempted to enter on Ethereum. This is learning. I wasn't really focused at that point, even though I know that UK often gives entries in the gap with a hammer, and you can enter with a sharp stop loss of that hammer. And here was an M retest of the EMAs for continuation when you have clear liquidity here. So let me go down to the 5 minute. So those were the setups, but I'm going to explain you why I missed this. Usually on my trading sessions, Asia, at the beginning, I was only trading for 2 hours of the session. That's what I did on that day. But now, most of the time, and this is something I'll write down, and I need to stick to staying 3 hours in front of the computer, even if it's long. I'm actually usually here at the gap open, which is 3 hours and a half, and probably another extra 20 minutes before that to do my charting and get ready at the laptop, because like I said, sometimes the entry is the first candle of the gap. But I was 2 hours into my session. This candle here, and the fact that we came into my 2 hour mark, I decided to leave the chart. I'm like, okay, we just my range here, exactly the same on Ethereum when we had this low and this big candle. But we ended up actually forming this M. This was still within my 3 hour window, actually, that entry. Inverted hammer like this after a break of the 50 EMA. This is an ideal entry. If I was at the chart, I would have entered that, even with your stop loss there. Target that liquidity, which was the equal lows. You get a 2.4 trade, even if you just want to target the retest of previous week range, 1.75. That's a good trade too. So I missed this one because I wasn't on the chart anymore. I had stuff to do this afternoon. You know, you can't always be at the chart all the time. A bit spewing about this one, but. And then the next one was at UK Open. I was there, but I wasn't that focused. And we had a sweep of the previous day's low on Bitcoin, and on Ethereum. We did here retested the previous week high. And here we went, take those lows and reclaimed it at the UK Open. And it was clearly here demand on the 2 minute. It gets retested by this little hammer. I remember seeing it, but I wasn't focused enough and my charting wasn't clean enough at the time. I probably just started like 10 minutes before. And by the time I saw this move had happened, and it was too late to get onto that move. It's such a beautiful trade here. If you're very sharp off that inverted hammer, stop loss below the breaker, target 50% Asia, target at 200 EMA. Beautiful trade here within half an hour. And then my third trade of the week, I made the mistake that on the 1 hour, this was the level 3 already dropped, and there was potential of a W forming. But this rejection here was too nice at the start of Asia. We were testing some key levels, 50% of previous day, the 200 EMA, back into a breaker on the higher time frame. So really an ideal entry. I entered a little bit late here on Ethereum, stop loss there. Tiny drawdown, really tiny. And then I get this massive move. It's too fast. It's too fast for me. We tap into this demand. I didn't like it. I thought about closing here. It was a 1 hour trade. The thing is, I ended up taking a loss on this trade because mismanaged that one, just stayed on it for way too long. I stay in the trade because my idea here is still valid, and I don't want to exit a trade that is valid. Price is still rejecting that 50 EMA on the 5 minute, so quite bearish. The thing is, we don't go much further. We actually end up taking this low here, and that's it. And when I woke up today, price was in that zone. I really thought about closing at break even and move on, but I wanted to let that trade play out. This was still a clean rejection. This one as well. We were in that zone, and then I spent the day at work and I didn't touch anything, and I ended up being stopped out all the way here. These were the trades for the week. The 3 trades I took had almost no drawdown. We went into profit, but it didn't go much further than that 1 or 1.5 or, and that's exactly why I want to focus and force myself on taking a bit more of those trades and those profits. And I've done something actually is I entered a trade on the weekend. Not proud of it, man enough to say it, but as I was about to record this video, I went to the laptop and went through my chart, and what I realized is if this is my W, you sort of have a level 1 here, my W on the 15 minutes, this would be a whole level 1, but here I clearly have 1, 2, and then 3 with big volume, retesting the high of previous week from the underside this time, tapping that supply here that made that massive move in US. I get price not returning into this week, so trapping volume formation. We start to reject the weekly open. There's so many confluence in that zone. When I entered that trade, Bitcoin was here and cleanly sweeping that low, same into this supply, stays clear of that wick on the 5 minute, create an M, break the 50, retest the daily open from the other side, and since then we haven't gone anywhere. So this trade is still valid because we're still not revisiting that wick. It's taking a bit too long now. It's about 3 hours and 5 minutes. So we'll see tomorrow. I'm just gonna go with it and let that trade run. But as you see here on Bitcoin, that breakdown should have been retested in that zone and go lower, and we've reclaimed that. We're going above the 50 EMA and staying there. It's not looking great. All right, so there we are on Sunday at that trade that I played on the weekend. So good entry and overnight, and I woke up, I got stopped out on this trade. So once again, it's a good confirmation that there is a high percentage of my trades that go from 1R to 1.5R. So the entries most of the times are good. It's just like the targets don't go as planned. This one obviously was a retrace. I thought I caught a top. It was actually a retrace for more levels on the 15 minute. We could see like 1 here, 2, 3 M formation on ETH, and the divergence with Bitcoin where you have 1, 2, 3, and then an extension. This one actually drops straight away, so you do have what we used to call final damage in my previous community, and then you have the M formation here, and this is what happened most of the time. You'll have divergence between the two assets, and that gives you confirmation of the reversal point. By the way, I just got a new setup for lights. My friend that does video actually showed me how to do it properly. So no more of all those weird colors, the green, blue. I didn't want colors anyway at the time, but this is all I could find that sort of looked good, which I actually did not look good. Anyway, so to go back to this week, 4 trades, ended up being a -3 loss. If I look at all of my trades, all my entries were good, and I was at least a 1 or 1.5 to take on every trade. This week could have been a 4 plus week. So I'm definitely going to work on this. I'm going to review once again all the trades I took since January and review what's my percentage win rate on those for a 1 target, a 1.5 target, 2 targets, and etc. and see what's the more viable. And I'll probably do a video on this because I think it is a big, interesting subject. That the 3 trade is not probably the best and not the most common. Probably used to have it more when we were during the bull run, and there was probably more volume, more excitement, trading altcoins, it's way more easy to get a 3-hour trade. My trading got more difficult from after October, so actually from the top of the market. Maybe this is one of the reasons as well why I've been struggling more than usually. Like I said in a previous video that I'll put the link below, there's so many things that changed in October and November that could have made my trading life much harder, and this is why I've been struggling since. So I've been trying to find answers. I'm definitely going to review my all profit targets, and hopefully we get something better next week. All right, see you guys. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it.